Hey guys, it's Lucky, and today I'm going to go over my solo tier list for 2022. I'm going to rank each class from worst to best in terms of their ability to solo all things in the game. As always, this year has been filled with adjustments to many of the classes. These adjustments have lifted some classes from the bottom of the pack while cutting others down from the top. I'll talk about what changes were made and what impact those changes had on each class. And just in case you don't know me, this is what I do. I have thousands of hours, not just theory crafting builds, but also testing them in all types of veteran content throughout the game. This video is a culmination of all I've learned about these classes and my attempts to find a way to make each one of them shine in the current patch. But remember, it's just my opinion, so feel free to disagree with it. But rest assured, it is a thoroughly well-tested and well-informed opinion. Every one of these classes is capable of doing all content in the game. The worst are not far from the best, and this is especially true for solo content. So don't let this list be the end-all be-all deciding factor for which class you choose. Choose the one that excites you first and foremost, as they might rebalance all of the classes again in the next patch. As always, I'll link all of the builds I'm using in this video in the description down below so that you can try any of them out for yourself. I'm going to rank these classes from B- to S tier. By the time I finished putting all of the builds together this patch, they all felt great, except for one, which just felt a little behind the rest of the pack. So let's begin. First up, sitting at the bottom of the pack, the MAGICKA Warden. The MAGICKA Warden right now, for me, is feeling like it's almost amazing. It almost has amazing damage. It almost has good sustain. It almost has a Frost Mage identity. But everything it does well, the other classes do better. While I'm trying to help my Warden embrace her class identity, I found myself constantly having to make concessions. I could use a Frost damage set, but there are non-Frost sets that would hit harder. I could use cold skills, but in the end, there were only a few that actually work. Out of the 12 abilities on my 2 bars, I could only justify just a few Frost abilities on this Frost Mage. In summary, I'm bummed about the current state of the MAGICKA Warden. Having a really competent Frost Mage in the game would be a lot of fun, but unfortunately, the strongest version of the Mag Warden is anything but a Frost Mage. It would use a Bear instead of its Cold ultimate. It would use Boss A instead of Frostbite. And even after you sacrifice all of that identity, it still feels lacking compared to the rest. Despite this, it's capable and great for bringing Brittle to your group in group content, but someone has to be at the bottom of the pack for solo content. And for the reasons I've listed above, I've chosen the MAGICKA Warden. The damage is just okay, and the sustain is not great. And so, for these reasons, we'll give the MAGICKA Warden a B-. Next up on the list is the Stamina Templar. The Stamina Templar is the king of simplicity. A few button rotation can get your parse near 100k DPS with your eyes closed. This is also where it feels a tad vulnerable. The class spammable does a ton of damage, but can leave you unprotected due to it being a channeled ability. This means you can't block while using it, like you can with other spammables. With the Ring of the Pale Order on, however, it is bringing in a ton of life. The Stamina Templar also has a rune that it can put on the ground to significantly reduce the damage it takes by granting major resolve. However, ZOS nerfed this rune recently, removing a playstyle that promoted standing within the rune to further bolster our defenses. This was an unfortunate change for this melee-centric class who had no choice but to stand toe-to-toe with the boss anyhow. More damning for the poor Stamina Templar was that ZOS allowed mag classes to wear stamina gear for the latest patch. As a result, the MAGICKA Templar became an absolute beast while wearing the Stamina Templar's gear. To curb the power of the Magplar, ZOS nerfed the gear that had served the Stamplar so well. As a result, the Stamina Templar is currently in the worst shape I've seen it in 2 years. In their attempts to curb the power of the Magplar, it feels like the Stamina Templar has been the collateral damage. On the bright side, it has fantastic mobility thanks to toppling charge, its built-in gap closer, and it puts out a ridiculous amount of damage when allowed to do so. And it does so with very little effort, making this the easiest class to play in the game. In solo, it's hitting softer, and it lost some survivability in its rune's design, leaving Stamina Templar here toward the bottom of the pack. For these reasons, we'll give it a B. Next up on the list, the Stamina Sorcerer. The Stamina Sorcerer has some really cool looking abilities. However, Hurricane can make it difficult to have any clue what your character is doing. For new players who aren't totally confident in their muscle memory of their rotation yet, this can be confusing as you're often hoping you press the right button with no way to see whether you actually did or not. The thing about Hurricane is that it's so good, we're going to use it anyways. This skill provides major resolve, does great damage, and increases our move speed. We are fast, we're tanky, and we cleave enemies down with ease. Stam Sorcs also have access to the Sorcerer pets, who can off-tank and do tremendous amounts of damage on their own. The Stamina Sorcerer is still one of the hardest classes to kill in the game thanks to its critical surge, while putting out great damage. One downside is that your pets can be unreliable, and you don't have a class version of Major Breach, which means you've got to go to PvP to unlock it. For all of these reasons, we'll be giving the Stamina Sorcerer a rating of a B+. The next class is the Stamina Necromancer. This class puts out an insane amount of AoE damage with ease. Its semi-spammable Blast Bones still hits harder than almost any other ability in the game, and in massive AoE fashion, making it a blast to play. Get it? Not only that, the Beckoning Armor makes being melee a joy, as ranged enemies are sucked in automatically by our armor, all while providing major resolve and adding to our tankiness. Really, the Necro just has a great kit. It's got something for everything, and you can tell that this was the newest class in the game. They really knew what a well-rounded class needed in every situation when they came up with this class. The one downside of the Necro can be the unreliable nature of Blast Bones, which might also be attributed to it being the newest class in the game. It's a skill that has some bugs. Sometimes it gets grayed out, preventing you from casting it. Sometimes it will have an existential crisis and just not explode, although it has been more reliable as of late. Necro received some nerfs to its execute damage and buffs to its skull spammable this year. ZOS still wants Necros to be a dot class, so be prepared to manage a lot of dots if you run a Necromancer. For all of these reasons, we'll place the Necro at an A-. Next up, MAGICKA NIGHTBLADE. In some ways, the MAGICKA NIGHTBLADE is incredibly simple to play. You can play the MAGBlade poorly and still do an excellent job of staying alive, largely due to the fact that your spammable Swallow Soul is also healing you every time you use it. On top of that, this spammable is a ranged ability, so you can kite around enemies and drop them, or you can just look in their direction and delete them. The choice is yours. Nightblades in general are fantastic for soloing because of their ease of access to life leeching abilities that bring life back in. The spammable we just discussed being one of many. They also have fantastic ult regen, allowing them to rapidly reuse their ultimate compared to other classes. This year, the Magblades were on the receiving end of a few nerfs, bringing their damage ceiling down quite a bit. They flew very close to the sun for a long time, so this wasn't really unexpected. If not for how insanely well the remaining classes are performing in solo content right now, I'd put the Magblade even higher. But for the reasons we listed above, and the ones to follow, we'll give the Magblade an A. Next up, the Stamina Warden. The buffs to the Stamina Warden a couple of patches back are still helping this class hit so hard. It's one of the highest parsers in the game right now, if not the highest parser in the game right now. The rotation is fairly simple and the skills look amazing. Again, like the Necro, the Warden is a DLC class, which resulted in it having a really well-rounded kit with some really fun utility abilities. The buffs to Caltrops and Stampede this year have really helped close, if not eliminate, the gap between Mag and Stam DPS in solo content. Caltrops is a great AoE damage ability that can also provide Major Breach, while Stampede is now a fantastic mobility ability that also provides a sizable dot. Neither of these skills are exclusive to the Warden, however, but they feel great on the Warden. In summary, the Stamina Warden puts out a nearly unmatchable amount of melee AoE damage, incredible single target damage, and has some fantastic utility abilities and bar buffers that help it be easy to play and hard to kill. For these reasons, I'll give the Stamina Warden an A+. The next class on the list is the MAGICKA Sorcerer. The MAGICKA Sorcerer always finds itself fairly high up on these lists no matter who makes them, due to its built-in healing from critical surge and pets that will kill things for you when you don't feel like doing it yourself. It has easy access to Major Resolve for damage mitigation, it has a powerful cost-effective spammable, and easy access to Life Leech through crit surge. Even new players will find themselves performing fairly well on this class, making it easy to slide toward the top of the list. Your pets will do a lot of the work for you, but they are double-edged blades, as their AI will sometimes let you down. My biggest grievance with the pets is that they have to be double barred, requiring them to take 4 out of your 10 slots. That's nearly half of them. Again, this isn't all bad, as they are low maintenance and greatly simplify your rotation, as many of your skills are duplicates. For these reasons, the MAGICKA Sorcerer will be the first class on the list to receive the coveted S tier rating. The next class is the MAGICKA Necromancer. The MAGICKA Necromancer is sliding it down a couple of slots due to some buffs the other classes received, but it's still performing great. It does so much AoE damage with its class abilities, while also using those same class abilities to provide Major Breach, damage mitigation, and self-healing. The MAGICKA Necromancer hits so hard. As a Necromancer, you will specialize in applying dots, lots and lots of dots. In fact, in group content, you'll oftentimes just replace your spammable with another dot. Depending on your taste, this could be a good or a bad thing, but it does does result in the Necromancer having one of the most difficult rotations in the game. The difficulty is rewarded though, so it's not for nothing. The Necromancer received a nerf to its execute passive. This leaves the execute phase feeling a bit boring on the Magicka Necro due to the lack of execute abilities and its now underwhelming execute passive. As I mentioned before, the Necromancer is the newest class, and you can feel that both in the amazing utility of its abilities and the wonderful ways you can combine them to create something great. Between blast bones and all of the dots you're putting down, the damage really ramps up as the battles go on, making this class a blast to play. Sorry, I just can't help myself. For all of these reasons, the Necromancer will also be given a rank of S tier. Next up, the Magicka Dragon Knight, going from 0 to hero this patch. Previously, this class was on the bottom of my list. Now it's perched very high towards the top. For 2 years, the community and I cried out for a buff to the Dragon Knight, and Zos finally answered. The Dragon Knight received buffs to both its sustain and its damage output, exactly what it needed. When set up appropriately, the damage is insane, and your character is nearly unkillable. You literally can't run out of Magicka if you want to. The Ring of the Bell Order does a lot to make up for the deficiencies of this class's self-heals. It also gets to use dual-wield daggers for extra crit chance with no downside, as it's already going to be in melee range to use its whip spammable. Built-in sources of damage mitigation, built-in major breach, incredibly powerful dots, this class is easy to set up and fun to play. For these reasons, the Magicka Dragon Knight has been given the rank of S tier. We are now down to the final 3. These 3 just hit so hard and felt so tanky and simply made soloing in this game fun and easy. Simply put, they are in a great spot. The first double S tier class is going to be the Stamina Nightblade. This class has so much built-in self-healing, so much built-in damage mitigation, and gains so much free crit chance and crit damage through its class passives that it hits like a truck while staying safe. Not only that, but I love getting to use the spin to win execute, also known as whirling blades. It's so effective and so satisfying on the right builds. Like the Magicka Nightblade, its damage ceiling was impacted by the changes to crit this year, but it still feels great in solo content. Dual wield just feels right on the Nightblade. Plus, it allows for even more crit chance. Our spammable of all things provides major resolve. Some of our abilities cost mag instead of stam, which works out great for our sustain. Multiple abilities on this build bring back health. And then on top of that, you can use the Ring of the Bell Order to further abuse these poor bosses lurking throughout Tamriel. As for any ads that dare walk up to you while you're fighting a boss, well, your whirling blades will make short work of them. Tons of life leech, great passives, and a really inexpensive ultimate, all combined to make the Stamina Nightblade a great solo class. For these reasons, the Stamina Nightblade will be ranked at double S tier. Next up, the Stamina Dragon Knight. The Stamina Dragon Knight is in a great spot right now. It was the former #1 solo class on my list and has also since benefited heavily from DK changes. While it was great in solo content, it was lacking in group content. For this reason, Zos gave the Stam DK a sizable buff to give it a competitive edge in group content. These changes to the Stamina DK not only helped it in group content, but also further cemented its place as one of the strongest solo classes in the game right now. It has absolutely insane damage as well as unrivaled sustain and damage mitigation. It's easy to play and easy to build. If you want to stand toe-to-toe with a giant boss and pummel them down with a giant two-handed weapon with some poison and fire dots, then Stamina Dragon Knight is a great choice for you. The Stamina Dragon Knight is the closest that you can become to being a tank that does damage. For these reasons, the Stamina Dragon Knight is ranked at double S tier. And finally, the #1 solo class in the game right now. This class received some much needed buffs recently, catapulting its damage through the roof while allowing it to maintain a very easy rotation. The Magicka Templar is the easiest and most powerful solo class in the game right now. If you use nothing but toppling charge and your sweeping strikes, the enemies will die and not you. Sweeping strikes is bringing back 40% of the damage you deal as health. It's amazing. The Magicka Templar also has one of the coolest executes in the game, often referred to in the community as the Jesus Beam. It's as close as we're gonna get to being Goku while playing ESO. Oh, and this beautiful execute, yeah, it also returns life while you use it. The Magplar did lose a little tankiness this year as a result of the nerf to its rune, but it's gained so much damage that it doesn't matter. Not only that, the changes to armor passives and gear allow the Magplar to use the same gear that once made the Stamplar great. I will put a link to my Magplar build down in the description below. This is the strongest I've seen the Magicka Templar, so if you ever wanted to try this class, now is the time. It's fun, it looks good, and it's powerful. In short, it is the single best solo class in the game right now. And the best part is, it's easy to play. And there you have it, guys. Thanks for listening to me explain and share my solo tier list for 2022. ZOS is always balancing the game, sometimes in obvious ways and sometimes in less obvious ways, and it's fun to go through these builds and see how strong we can make them each patch. I'll add that all of these builds can trifecta Vodastron Holos and Maelstrom Arena, and all of them can do all of the content in the game. Every one of these builds can all solo world bosses, they can solo dungeons, and of course they can do every quest. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, don't let this tier list decide your class for you. Pick the one that looks awesome to you. No matter which class you choose, it's going to be capable of doing all content in the game. That's all from me on this topic until the next patch, where we reevaluate all the classes and give them a report card all over again. If you're still here, you hopefully enjoyed the video, so please consider liking and subscribing so you can be alerted to more Elder Scrolls content. If you have any questions or thoughts, leave a comment down below. And if you ever want to hang out with someone else who loves ESO, swing by my stream over at twitch.tv/LUCKYGHOST. And don't forget to check out these builds and more linked in the description. I'll see you in the next video.